Right, this is the final week of our series on modern day saints. So far we have looked at well-known, even famous people who might fit the criteria. From Clive Stafford Smith, a human rights lawyer, through Maya Angelou, a very feisty black woman, and Douglas Macmillan, a humanitarian, all the way up to George Michael, superstar. All have had incredible lives and made huge differences. But it isn't only famous people who can be modern day saints. Yes, these people have made huge impacts on people around them, but there are many out there who aren't well known, who didn't make a noise about what they do, yet more than meet the criteria in many ways. We only have to look around our own home here in Brighton and Hove to see them. The people who turn out every day to help the homeless, those who set up food runs, food banks for those on low income, who are struggling, those who spend their days going out to talk to those that most people treat as invisible, the people who visit the old and the isolated, just because it's the right thing to do. So maybe we need to revisit what it means to be a saint. What should the criteria be? After all, we have heard previously that the word used for saints meant people of faith, or holy people. And the early church called the people who met together saints. Ordinary people who followed Christ met, prayed, and worshipped together, who came to faith through the words of Christ and the disciples. These were the people that were called saints. So it isn't a stretch to count our, as it says there, everyday saints amongst the modern day saints. To start with, I just want to share a few examples that I have met during my work with the homeless. There's a lady who goes out every morning and gives food to the rough sleepers. She doesn't advertise, she doesn't make a big thing of it. She does it because it is needed. And in return, she has earned the respect of the street community. A couple follow this example on the weekends when services are severely limited and travel around feeding anyone they find. These people have the trust and respect of those who are in some of the direst situations you can imagine. They have chosen to see the invisible people in our society. And let's face it, none are more invisible than the homeless. But it isn't just about the homeless. However, that is where my main experience lies. There are groups set up to help and support people whatever their challenges. Most of these groups have been set up either by churches, faith groups, or people of faith. They are staffed by volunteers who give their time and emotional energy to helping others on a daily basis. There are two ways, I think, to look at this. One is that we live in an uncertain and increasingly violent world where sadly these organisations are much needed, which is maybe a little depressing. However, on the other hand, we live in a world where people really care about others, a world of faith that not only calls for action, but steps up and acts, which to me is encouraging and quite inspiring. I tend to look at it from the viewpoint that there are people out there who, given the opportunity, will step up and take action. Given the chance, they will help and support those in most need. People of great faith, great generosity and great spirit, who will keep on turning up, keep on working to change things, and in doing so, inspire others to do so too. This is to me what it looks like for God's presence in the world. Not flashy miracles, not huge events, but the little day-to-day efforts of people that make small changes that eventually lead to the world changing. In MCC, we talk about transforming ourselves as we transform the world. It's the denomination strapline. But to me, the way to really transform the world is to transform those around us. We transform them by our example, by living the kind of life Jesus modelled. And once those around us are transformed, the effect spreads. until finally the world will have no choice but to follow suit. True change, sustainable change, comes from within each one of us. We make slight changes that affect others. They make minor changes which affect even more people, and we get that ripple effect. Eventually, the groundswell of change affects the world around us. That's what I believe, and that is why I keep on doing the things I do, talking to the people I talk to, and why I just basically keep turning up. After all, as we heard from the reading in Matthew 25, the sheep and the goats, Jesus clearly wanted us to do these things. He made it clear that we should reach out, help and support those that are overlooked or ignored, the invisible in our society. And these days, the homeless are incredibly invisible. The rough sleepers and street dwellers of our society are overlooked, ignored, and seem to be totally invisible. This was made even more apparent by Richard Gere. Now I see some people perk up at that point. Richard Gere, famous actor, Hollywood star, easily recognisable. Yeah, Officer and a Gentleman, one of the most well-known faces in Hollywood. However, he was preparing for a film role as a homeless man, and so he dressed as a rough sleeper. Didn't put makeup on, didn't change his face, just dressed as a rough sleeper. And he sat on a corner in New York. Not one person recognised him. Not one person would meet his eye. Not one person even looked at him or acknowledged him. I mean, if that is the case for a worldwide superstar, an incredibly well-known person, possibly one of the most recognisable people in the world, what chance do the ordinary homeless have of being noticed or heard? Clearly, close to zero. So every person that seeks to help the homeless, everyone that tries to support them, to give them a voice, to connect with them, is doing exactly what Jesus asked of us in this reading. They are truly living lives of, if not heroic virtue, certainly great value. Stepping out into the streets and against vocal common opinion, spending time with these invisible people. They are true agents of God. So they match the criteria of saint in many ways. As for miracles, just see the difference they make to these people's lives. Just see how they save lives by just being there and being themselves. People of faith, called to serve. It is a miracle that they have brought hope to people whose lives have been devoid of it. It's a miracle that they have restored in those people the belief that they truly matter, that they are worth spending time with. But the biggest miracle of all is that they continue to do these things with little support, virtually no funding, and against the opposition of some local organisations. Not to mention the times they have been sworn at, spat at, even assaulted by people under the influence of various drugs or with severe mental health difficulties. Yet still they turn up. Still they work to help those with some of the greatest life challenges anyone can face. Now to me, anyone who steps out of their comfort zone, anyone who goes out into their community to make a difference, to show God's unconditional love for all in action, they are true saints. And I think Jesus would not only be happy at the response to his message, but would have no problem about them being called saints. The everyday saints of true humanity. But then, isn't that what we should all aspire to be? At the very least? Thank you.